I was trying to find mine, but whoo, Jesus.
Yeah, I've never written my name on here.
Yeah, that wall is filling up.
It's feeling
yeah,
like it
yeah.
looks good.
We definitely got to get another.
I got to do a
gold
big
marker.
one and say Bantu Cola and sign it.
All right, you ready? Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna sit this down because I know that look crazy.
Man,
If
we
I have a
gonna
hot
get
flash
you
and I
some of
grab
those
it, don't say
old
nothing.
school Joe Mars fans next
Okay.
time for y'all. Or the one with Jesus knocking on the door.
Okay.
You know? Hey, what's up, man? We appreciate y'all for taking it into the G Spot podcast. Tonight, man, today, we had the grand opening for a black business. Oh, wait, shout out to, we got Tracy in the building, with Ford Financial.
Yes, with Ford Financial.
Yeah, with Ford Financial. This is the first time they have been on the G Spot podcast. So what I do, like I always do, I can't tell you a story that like you can tell it. So I always go down the line. I let everyone introduce themselves. And we have Ms. Catrice. I'm gonna let you go first.
Thank you. So I'm Catrice Johnson, and I'm with Bantu Cola, and I'm also a part of Lemonade Stand Boot Camp, which is a nonprofit for young people. So I'm gonna go say just that much at this time.
Yeah. All right, man.
Yes, I'm Tracy Holt with Ford Financial. I'm a life insurance advisor / broker, and I'm just here to help out the community.
And I'm Irvin Bird, owner, founder of birdzone.com and LLC. And also lead an organization called The Worship Experience, which is a community-based ministry.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that, because this is my first time hearing about the worship experience. Right. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I present it this way. So when COVID happened, a lot of people left church. And we got to understand that what people thought was church really wasn't church. And so people became disenchanted and left, and began watching church on what we say virtually. But I was driving down 9 Mile Road here in Pensacola, September 2021, driving, beautiful afternoon, and I hear, so as we would say in the church, in the spirit, the worship experience. And I'm thinking, what is that? And so I called Dr. McGee, who happens to be my pastor in California. Said, I don't know what this means, but I know it's an assignment. And the assignment was provide a space and create an atmosphere for worship. So we're non-traditional in that we just want believers to come together and worship, which is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Back in the Testament, the New Testament, they came together. And so in so doing, so it doesn't matter what church you belong to, doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter, we just want to worship. That is the sole purpose of the worship experience.
Right. And we definitely need that. We definitely, we were talking about earlier how a lot of people have now left the church, and we got a little too comfortable with the whole virtual services. I've never particularly. I mean, everything is virtual now. You get on Facebook and you watch everybody's funeral. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like I'm on there. I'm trying to watch something funny, and I go down and now I'm feeling sad. But that's a pretty. We need stuff like that. People taking the initiative to give other people options. Yeah. And I think traditionally we are so used to, as a culture of people, we stick to tradition. Right. And that makes us stagnant with progression. And we need those non-traditional environments to grow as individuals. And the thing with connecting with God is that God, we are all a part of God's body. Mm-hmm. Yes. And we need spaces where people encourage people to look within, find the God within, because you will always be dependent on other people for your own growth.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's one thing I had to do with me a couple years. I had, I guess what some people say, a spiritual awakening. Right. And I remember it to a point where like I couldn't even sleep at night. I had trouble sleeping. I had so much stuff on my mind. I called my dad, and my dad was like, you know, you're not gonna get no sleep until you do what the fuck God wants you to do. Yeah.
Tell you that I think
I love it.
A spiritual awakening.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons why people are not going to church anymore. And as I was telling you earlier,
I agree.
That whole conversation we had. So I'm going to go back into talking about that just a little bit. So I was in my car a couple of weeks ago, and I was driving up to Century. And in the process of driving up there, I was just praying, and I was talking to God, and I was like, Lord, what is going on? Because I don't want to go to church anymore. I don't want nothing to do with church when it comes to the actual body, the physical place. I don't want to be there. And as I was driving, I was praying and I was talking to myself and I was talking to God, and the Holy Spirit dropped in my spirit. He said, first of all, the church that we have right now shouldn't even be a church at this point. And I was like, what are you talking about? Just explain this to me a little bit more so I can understand. And he was like, there are so many churches that have 12 members for 20 years, and they shouldn't even be in a church at this time. And a lot of the pastors that have ministries, they started it out of revenge. They're mad because somebody else wouldn't let them preach. They're mad because somebody else wouldn't let them lay hands on somebody, or whatever the case may be. And because of that, they went and started a church, and now they have 12 members or even 5 members, and they're calling themselves a church. And they've been that way for 20 years. If it's not 20, it may be 10 years. And I'm saying, Lord, and he's like, they need to shut down. We should not have a church on every block. That's crazy. Right. Why would we have a church on every single block and half the people don't even show up to the ministry? Right. Something's wrong with that. Right. And then if you have the pastors doing the same exact thing that everybody else is doing, something is wrong. So, there's some things that are happening, and that's one of the reasons why being in church now is not something that many Black people as a whole are not a part of, because they see the real truth and they're sick of it. Yeah. But the pastors are still saying, we need you to come and be a part of this and give your money and be no. Why am I giving you money and all you take care is your own? Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons with the worship experience, we want people to come and experience worship. And so traditionally, when you go to church, we come in, you're greeted. There's, how many ever songs there are. We do the songs, we do the offering, we do the sermon. And depending on your tradition, there may be an altar call. Right. And we do that over and over and over. If the worship experience, we simply want you to come to encounter the Lord. So you may sit down, you may write, you may meditate, you may pray. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing in that space, when the space that we've allowed for worship. Amen. You experience him however you experience him in that in that space.
And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and they was like, I have trouble with praying. I don't know how to pray. I was like, yes, you do. Can't nobody dictate or tell you how to have your personal relationship with God. Absolutely. Talk to God how you talk anyway. Like, look, and a friend of mine, me and her were talking, and we had a deep conversation. She was telling me, she said, I had to admit, she went through a lot of stuff growing up. And she said, I had to sit down with myself and I told God, I'm mad at you. And she said, I felt bad for even thinking that. But then when I said it, I felt so much better because I could hear, she said, God told me, all right, I'm glad you told me that. Now how can we move on? Be real. If you want God to be real with you, you got to be real with yourself. And it is okay to sometimes, because a lot of times in the church they teach us not to question God, which leaves a lot of questions within yourself. How do I manage X, Y, Z, or what I'm feeling? Right. But you have to be real with yourself, and you have to be, and just like how you would talk respectfully, but at the same time be real and just talk. Say what you want. Yeah. Absolutely. And one thing I learned about praying is a lot of times we go into prayer and we beg. I don't do that no more. I'm over that. I'm going to already speak it like it's already here. Yeah, I already got it, and I thank you for it. So we need that. We need that. I think, and like you said, now that the church is changing, because even when we saw COVID came, I think COVID was a big hit for the church. Yes. Okay. And a lot of people started, and then too, is when it comes to the Black community, like you were saying too, we're in a spiritual, how can I say it, revolutionary period right now. Like everybody's like trying to see, okay, what's working for me, what's not working. And so we got, I guess it's just, fortunately we have that, we have those people here who don't make you feel uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Who don't make you feel uncomfortable and saying, you could come here.
You are.
Yeah. So
one of the things that I want to go back to is the whole prayer thing. Yeah. I was listening to Miles Davis this morning, and he was saying prayer is the enemy of action.
Miles Davis or Miles Monroe?
Miles Monroe. I keep getting them confused.
All right. I want to make sure because I didn't know it was Miles Davis. Okay, I'm just asking.
Miles Monroe. All right. And in listening to him, and I was really just like, I was floored, but I understood. Because now we're in an age in the community where we're dealing with more action than we are with, in prayer. So remember that back in the day when, 50 years ago when, black folks were getting lynched and black people were having things happen and all this stuff was going on. And they said, we need to pray. We need to pray. Black people are tired of praying now. And so what you're seeing is this switch over to action. The problem is the church has not caught up. Okay. So every time I talk to my mother or anybody about what's going on in the community, I'm really praying for it. No, it's time for action. It's time for us to start standing up in our community and saying, this is wrong, or we need to work on this, or we need to fix that, or do something. Because prayer is not working at this time. It is an enemy to action. I'm not saying not to pray. I'm saying pray and work. Even the Bible says that we should pray and work at the same time. Faith without works is dead. So you praying and you believe in God, but you also put an action towards it. It makes it happen. And that's how it's supposed to be. But no, we've gotten sunken into the whole idea, we should just pray about. No, forget prayer. I'm sorry. I talk to God every single day. But it's time for us to start making some real moves.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I think, and we coming in a time where people are not only, I think how society is now forming, we're going through a big shift. And every time you see on social media, it's something else. I mean, 1 minute the banks are crashing. A lot of people are getting laid off from jobs because jobs are now having to downsize. And I saw articles talking about America is so deep in debt. Like the percentage of millionaires has decreased so much by like 30-40% or something like that because of the economical change that's going on right now. And that's why you see a lot of people going back and forth on social media, especially one of the biggest things that we've been seeing a lot on social media is what a man's supposed to take care in the household. This whole 50-50, that's the thing, 50-50. And a lot of women say, I ain't been with no man that's 50-50. Okay, well, that's cool. You don't have to be with a man that's 50-50. But at the same time, what are you going to bring to the table? Are you even worthy enough of getting a man that ain't going to do you 50-50? But two, you have to take in the economical situation. Things aren't what they used to be like grandma and granddaddy. I mean, you don't even know what they went through to get what they got. And so I think that is also pushing people to question a lot of things that they were taught traditionally. Because tradition does not mean fact. Okay.
That's true.
And I think when you go to a lot of, I sat in on a meeting for an organization here that does something quite every year. And it was a bunch of older black pastors a part of it. And when you would give your input, they would, no, we've been doing like this. We want to keep this full of Jesus and full of, I'm like, well, the thing is, the younger generation needs the older generation.
Absolutely.
But the older generation needs the younger generation.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't keep up, they're going to put you in a museum.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
not saying, and not saying that you have to listen, that we have to listen to everything, but we still, it's balanced.
There has to be a real balance between it. And even again, it says he called the young because they're strong. He called the old because they're wise.
Right.
So we need the wisdom of the elders.
Right.
I guess I'm almost in that realm now. Pray for me, y'all. But we also need the strength of the young people so we can get things done.
Right.
The problem is that the elders want to be the young and the old, and then the problem is the young want to be the old and the wise. Mm-hmm. You can't have it both ways. So the question becomes, when do we start showing that the young people give the respect to the elders on some things, but also the elders have to be willing to listen because things are changing. Yep. Times are different. So I was working with a client a couple of days ago. Website is horrible. I build websites on, with my other business. And I'm telling you, I went through everything with this person, talked to them, sat for 2 months going through everything. They came and wrote me a check and then turned right back around the next day and was like, cancel the contract. I don't want to do this. And I was like, wow. So a part of it was out of fear. Because they're so used to what they have already that changing is a real fear to them. Mm-hmm. But you can't be afraid when it comes to what we're dealing with right now.
That's true.
In this community and what we're dealing with this day and age, if you allow fear to stop you, you're going to end up dying from fear. Because that's what fear does. It kills.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And it kind of made me think about what we talked about earlier in the case of Mr. Willie Jr. And like I said, I'm going to talk about it because some people are like, oh, you shouldn't. No, I'm going to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's one of the reasons why people do not push the issue because of fear. And I remember a guy in Pensacola had said he wanted to start a documentary about it, and it was so many people coming and saying, "Well, I don't think you should do that. They're gonna kill you. They're gonna do X, Y, Z." But if you got all of us together, they can't kill all of us.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Now the whistle has been blowed. We know what happened, but why ain't nobody talking about what happened? You know, and I'm pretty sure it puts a lot of stress on people who take those seats now because they see, you know, what could happen. Because this wasn't an event that happened 50 years ago like you would imagine it.
No.
56. This is something that happened, you know what I'm saying, in all of our lifetime. What, not even 20 years ago, I don't think. You know, so once we get over that fear, I think we have to start pushing or giving examples or giving resources of how to get over that fear. And because you do see it a lot with our community, we kind of look for everybody else to be our savior instead of looking within. And we need the leaders really to, you know, stop being fearful and keep it real. Like I said, when the pastor told me, you know, it's a lot of stuff I want to preach about in the church, but the church ain't ready. Well, you fell in the church.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, you got to keep it real.
So I haven't heard about the Willie Jr. story in years, and so I've heard from you now twice about it. Is this something that is just come up, or there's attention being turned on it, or how's it? I've not heard anything about this. I mean, the story was here, went away. We've not heard anything.
I think the younger generation, I think my generation, because I wouldn't say I'm 32 now. So
Okay.
I think my generation now and the generation after us, the generation after, they don't know much about it. My generation, we know. We were all younger, but we know. And we kind of like the revolutionary generation, okay?
Right.
And so I feel like, so now a lot of us are getting to that point. A lot of the younger activists in the community are getting to the point where we're like, okay, like we can't ignore this. So the conversations are now being had.
Okay, so I was curious
Yeah.
about. Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't
The
heard
conversations
about
are being
him
had.
in years.
But I think now people are trying to figure out how can we put the information out there? Who could we go talk to? Because even you don't hear nothing from the family, you know. So, but then that goes
because
into
of the way he died.
Right.
So when I first moved to Pensacola, it was in '94, and I think he had died maybe a couple of years or a few years before I got here. And
after he died in it was 2000 something.
Willie Jr.
Okay. We're gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, look it up because they were talking about it at that time, and I was like, "Who's Willie Jr. and what's going on and why is this and why is that?" It may have been afterwards, but I remember having that conversation with my family, and they were like, "They did him wrong, but we're not going to talk about that."
2004.
Okay, 2004. So I was still 10 years after I've been here. But I was like, what happened to him? No one talked about it. So the only thing is that I remember is that where they found him. And that was the only thing they talked about. And it was just so crazy to hear how like that happened to him. But when it came down to like the whole story, that was never a conversation.
Yeah.
Never.
And for y'all who are just tapping in and might not know who Willie Jr. is, but Willie Jr. was a businessman in Pensacola, Florida. And anytime I talk to people about Willie Jr., which I believe the community action program was started by Willie Jr. For the people everybody out here, Willie Jr. was the person to go to if you need your bills paid. You know what I'm saying? But he was one of those down to earth people that people could be comfortable with.
Okay.
So he was well known to be like a people's person, and he was one of the ones you had no question to call him. I know if I'm going through this, I can call Willie Jr. Okay. You know, he owned a funeral home, which was, I think, one of the first funeral homes like his, which was a drive-through funeral home, right?
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So you could just drive up and you see the body, which is now they just opened up as a restaurant, you know? So Willie Jr., I wouldn't even necessarily say a mystery behind his passing, but he was a county commissioner. It was some illegal stuff that was going on, and they needed a face. And there were alleged rumors that he might have had the money too, but what he was doing was putting it in the black community. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But they needed a face. And at the time he was the black face on the board. So then all of a sudden he of course he's like, I'm not doing that. Y'all did XYZ. And all of a sudden he disappears for a few days.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they find him under a house dead and say that he drunk with cans of beer, drunk antifreeze. So you drink antifreeze and crawl under a house.
Yep.
Yeah, that just don't make sense. Yeah. Don't even make sense. But it was rumored that, and I'm gonna say this because a lot of them are passed on, but their kids are still around. Excuse my friend, I don't give a damn. It was said that a lot of the people who were on the board, kind of like mafia, it was a mafia move, and they got rid of them.
Yeah.
And it's for a long time, a lot of people, they just weren't really. And then too, if y'all want to know something, man, let me tell you, y'all go on Pensapedia and see how bad they talk about them on Pensapedia. But that's what they do. But definitely though, the conversations are being had now of what could we do to kind of bring it to the forefront, and not just talking about how he died, but celebrating how he lived and what he did for the community. So I encourage y'all, if y'all don't know the story, it's definitely check out the death of Willie Jr. because it definitely open your eyes to how this game can switch up. And it makes it more understanding too when you see other political figures who are of color in certain seats. And sometimes you might feel like, well, you ain't doing enough, you ain't doing this, but it's a certain code you got to play by because they will get rid of you. You just got to be real about it.
It's not even just get rid of you; they will erase you.
Erase you.
Because that's what they did with Willie Jr. Everything, all the good that he did, no one ever talks about it.
Yeah.
He did good in this community. No one talks about. All they talk about is his death.
Yeah. Well, y'all, like I said, man, we early today we started off. We had some really, really, really good topics, conversations earlier. One thing I do want to make a point about is the mental health that's going on in the Black community right now. I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and she was talking about social anxiety. That's something I still kind of deal with. I'm pretty sure some of y'all probably deal with it too. It's for entrepreneurs, it's really a big thing because we have no choice but to deal with the people, So I noticed a lot of times they try to encourage us to use drugs. And a lot of times the drug, which we all know, drugs never help you. They just kind of, turn something down a little bit. They never heal you from anything.
Absolutely.
So how do y'all feel about that? Like, what do you feel could probably help with the anxiety that we see now going on, which I think that even has a part in the violence that goes on into our community. Absolutely. Because not having that outlet of knowing how to deal with the stresses that you go through. So how do you feel like that could be,
You want me to answer first?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing, as we were talking about while we were talking earlier, I think that there needs to be real conversation without having law enforcement involved. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I think that it needs to be without law enforcement involved is because when they come in with their badges, their guns, and everything. And with Black people, we're already a little nervous with them. And so I think if they came in with their in jeans and t-shirts like everybody else, that people will feel a little bit more comfortable. But because they come in with that authoritative moment, you're not going to get Black people to talk.
Right.
So we need to have the discussion in our community, like really do community outreach and just have talks. And not just in one community. I'm talking in every community. Maybe like for 1 month, we hit every community area and have those conversations in maybe one of the community centers and talk about it. Because until we really start talking about it and breaking it down and finding out where the nuclei of the issue begins, we're never going to be able to fix the problem. That's what I think it should be.
I was watching a podcast one time, and this woman was saying that a lot of Black people suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
I've heard that.
Which I guess is really a thing.
It is.
Of the effects. And, sometimes it annoys me when you see these type of conversations and people with different backgrounds will say, well, y'all need to get over it. Y'all not slaves no more, not understanding the effect mentally that still has on our community. And I see a lot of stuff like even from small stuff of growing up I didn't even know came from slavery. Like when we would go to one of my grandmother's house, we would have to go through the side door. Didn't know that. From going to church and you walk with the finger lift up, that was slaves had to do that, and to see how a lot of those traditions are still lingering around to this day. I mean, it just kind of blows me. But I think even though we see it, we don't understand the mental strain that it still has on our community. I saw a story a coach had made. One of the team members, he said he didn't want to be on the team no more, so he made him strip down in front of everybody, right? And everybody was like, well, I would have beat my son ass. And I said, well, that's kind of where you get into that slave mentality. I feel like you have to beat on something all the time because you don't know how to balance your anger. And the guy was like, that ain't no damn slave. Yeah, yes, it is. Like, first of all, why can't I just talk to you? Really? You know what I'm saying? Right. Why do I have to beat on you?
Right.
I said, where do we learn that from? Here, and I can't tell you about the African experience because I don't have the African experience necessarily. I have an American experience. Right. So when it comes to our experience here, where do we learn that from?
Tracy?
Yeah, I just think that generations have passed it down as a cultural way of things, way that we do things. Yeah. Because even right now with my kids, like you said, I don't need to put my hands on them to get their attention. I look my daughter in the eye and talk to her like a person. Right. And then she'll understand what she did wrong, and boom. But I do have family members that believe that cultural thing, oh, well, that's the reason she's going to turn out being bad. I'm like, well, the reason anybody turns out bad is because of the words that you're putting, the seeds that you're planting. Mm-hmm. So with my daughter, I plant seeds of love, empowerment, and I tell her, like, look, speak your mind. You know what I mean? Speak your mind. So that's where I think it comes from. I just think it's just been passed down generation to generation. And, we think that it has helped us because, you see, he's not doing anything, but he or she is holding or compartmentalizing everything. And then, boom, there you go. He just snapped, and I hate to say it like this, but he just threw somebody through the TV. Right. And I've seen that a lot coming up in my neighborhood where I'm from, and it's sad. Yeah.
I know with you working with a lot of people as far as on the spiritual side, do you have a lot of Black people that come that needs seeking counseling because of certain behaviors in the household, and how do you help them with that?
So I'm glad you asked that question because I think we have to make the distinction between what I consider personal anxiety, social anxiety, then there's the collective. And I think what Katrice was talking about is this collective anxiety around law enforcement. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing.
It is.
It's a thing that has been passed on to us because the police was designed to keep us in check. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. Right. It was never for law enforcement. It was to keep this skin, Black and brown people in check. Yep. When you lost the plantation, we needed a new system. So that's a different form. But individually, there are experiences that people have. And so one of the things that Bird Zone LLC is a personal development company. And so as a minister and a transformation consultant, what I do in my business, I say this, is I help people unlock the things that are blocking them. So anxiety may be one of those things. Yeah. We drill down with questions to unlayer what's going on with you. Then we make a recommendation either for a mental health counselor. You may just need, your diet is jacked up. You having problems because you just eating wrong, you see. So it could be mental, it could be physical. Here's one of the things that churches, and so I make enemies with preachers. I'm a non-traditional preacher. Right. I'm a preacher, don't get it twisted. Right. But I'm not traditional. And so I've said to pastors, you're not qualified to do mental health. You're qualified to open the Bible and be spiritual. And your ability to open the Bible and break open a spiritual word for a person, but your inability to help them doesn't take anything away from you. Be smart enough and humble enough to know your lane. Mm. And so as a pastor, I recognize, okay, well, first of all, I didn't go to school for mental health. I can't recommend no drugs for you. And in Florida, you need a license or they will lock you up. Right. Okay. So, but, the one thing that Katrice keeps saying, we've got to begin to have these conversations openly and honestly about what's happening with us. Mm. For me, that's the first part of it. An authentic, honest conversation with myself. I need help in this area. Yeah. That's one of, but this image thing that we do, everybody, church is full of images. Yeah. I used to say, boy, y'all come in here on Sunday morning, you painted, fried, dyed, laid to the side, new shoes, new handbag, but you're dying inside. And so you can shout, we get our shout on in church, and still bound.
Yep. It's still happening.
You didn't dance away. You didn't dance away the pain. And so I think we have to begin to have create spaces for conversations that people, because you have to feel safe too.
Right.
Because you can't put your business out there because it's not always been safe. I'm struggling in this area. They say, you're in the bulletin, the church bulletin.
Yeah.
And they take away your title, you see. So, but what we do in our spaces, we're directing people to medical professionals, to mental health, people that we trust. Because not all those people are qualified to deal with you either. Even though you have a license and a degree, you're still dumb. Yeah. And you don't know what to do. So, that's what we do. And there's a balance to the spiritual and that mental health thing.
Yeah. I think one thing you pointed out that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the things that we eat does play a part in our moods. Yeah. And I was just watching a woman break down how when you have a certain blood type, there should be a certain diet that you go by. I didn't even know that. And it was like, well, that's why some people have certain deficiencies, because with that blood type, you shouldn't probably be eating that. You should eat more of this. I remember watching, it's a woman, she's a vegan, and she's a black woman. She was posting about certain things we shouldn't eat. And around the holidays, I really could not stand watching her a lot of times because you be waiting for that turkey and all that, and she was like breaking down why you should eat this. And she called macaroni and cheese cow puss. And it bothered me because, I like me a good little baked macaroni and cheese. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But when she was breaking down and she was showing how it affects the human body, it made a lot of sense, even with drinking, it's small as drinking milk, and now you see what drinking milk could really do to your body. Drinking milk is worse for your bones than you think about it. And you say, it makes you get good bones. Like, no, it doesn't. It does the complete opposite.
We're the only species that drinks other species' milk.
Yeah, disgusting.
Yeah. But one of the things that we can do. So here's the deal. So I'm always about how can we help you today?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we can begin to do, and encouraging my friends, reduce our sugar intake.
Oh yeah.
Sugar is in everything.
Yeah.
So this happened last night. So I was listening to, you guys may know who Tiffany Montgomery is. She's this very powerful voice, prophetic voice in the country right now. But she was hosting an event in Orlando, and I happened to tune in because my friend was down there, and she had a coach on, and we were talking about diet. So we got the spirit, but our health is jacked up. We get in the prosperity line at church. Lord, I need $1,000, but you're eating the wrong things. And so this coach was saying, reduce sugar. So this happened to me last night. Because the deal is that I'm a work in progress. I have some Oreos in my cupboard. But this happened last night because I challenged myself. So at 12:30 a.m., I'm saying, and I've got my TV. I said, I could really get some Oreos. I said, you know what? I make a decision. I'm not going to have Oreos. Right. I drank water and went to bed. I woke up this morning, I had an orange. Now, I'm by no means a diet nut, but you begin to do little things. I think sometimes we don't do it because we feel overwhelmed. Yeah. Just reduce the sugar intake. So if you're drinking 5 cups of coffee a week or 5 cups a day, drink 2. So we begin to and see what that does to our mood.
And it does. It's not just the eating thing. Also, most of us don't get enough sleep.
Yes.
When I tell you that sleep is one of the major reasons why there's mental illness, it really is. Yes. Because you don't allow your body to reset.
Rest. Yeah, that's true.
That's what sleep does. When we sleep, we dream, we go through the whole process of it. Mm-hmm. But it's allowing us to empty out the day before. But if you're constantly awake and you're constantly doing something, your body can't reset. Mm-hmm. And your brain operates every part of your body. Every function in your body. It tells your heart to pump. Mm-hmm. If your brain is not working, your heart might still be pumping, but it might need, after a while, it's going to stop because the brain is not telling it what to do.
Right.
So we have to be able to allow our bodies to reset.
Right. And I think to touch on that, we kind of have always been told, have this hustler mindset. You got to do X, Y, Z, especially, everybody owning a business. Mm-hmm. And we tend to neglect ourselves, thinking that that's how we have to do, instead of thinking automatically anything that I want is going. I'm going to attract it already. I shouldn't have to do X, Y, Z. You know, of course we got to work, but I shouldn't have to be breaking my neck, breaking my back, and stay up 20 hours out the day. Sleep is very, very important, because that was one thing with me. I used to I'll be up all night long, you know, and I'll probably go sleep 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just doing different stuff. I'd be like, oh, I don't need sleep. I don't need to sleep. Until one day I almost passed out because I knew my body was about to just shut down. Right. It is very important, and it does definitely, it affects your mental health too. And I don't think people really take it serious like they should. I know she was saying that sugar is the #1 killer. I think a lot of people don't realize too how detrimental, how bad alcohol is. I've been talking to a couple of people who
it has sugar.
Yeah,
that's all it's made of is sugar.
Cancer survivors, and or people who have lost people from cancer. We had a couple people in a couple shows ago. I had a woman in, her son passed at 14 from cancer. And we had a cancer survivor here, shout out to Brandon Williams, who just rung the bell a couple months ago. And both said the same thing. One of the #1 causes of cancer was alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think, and then you hear about it so much now. Like my great grandmother passed last year. She was 94. And she was like, you didn't really hear about people dying from cancer. Like, that was not really a thing when I was coming up.
We didn't drink as much. It was not available to us like it is now.
Yeah. And they put it on all our corners.
Every single thing.
Yeah.
They put these fast food restaurants, and they put liquor stores on pretty much where we live so we can see it. And another thing also, red meat. People think, red meat is good for you. It is not good for you. It takes it months to break down in your stomach.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying not to have a good steak every once in a while. Everybody deserves a hot steak.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love me a good piece of steak too, though.
I'm going to. I'm going to have red. So.
It depends on how much you eat it.
Right.
Where it determines. Like,
that's true.
My mom will tell me, well, if you pray over your food, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to control yourself.
It's moderation.
Yes.
Everything
It's
in
moderation.
Yes, moderation.
Everything.
But I did want to say this. So I do have a little problem with the they. They are putting these on our corners, but they don't control our actions.
Come on now, that's true.
See,
accountability.
We got to get away from this other. They are doing this and they are doing that, but you don't have to spend your money there.
That's true. That's true.
See?
Accountability.
Yeah,
but it goes back to the reason you have marketing.
Right.
You want to have those mental pictures to where they are subconscious.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get what you're saying
Right.
and what you're saying, but those pictures are subconsciously speaking to us, and you see it, you're like, oh man, I gotta go there.
I gotta try that.
Like right now, the first restaurant. If you think of a restaurant right now, what's the first restaurant you think
McDonald's.
of? Boom.
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
24/7,
So that's
Right.
what to piggyback on what you were saying. You got to make a conscious decision, but you're not conscious when you're thinking.
Yeah.
You're selling you something on a regular basis.
Right.
Your subconscious is programmed,
Right.
and that is what how can I say it?
Creates the desire for it.
Right. It expresses itself.
Yep.
So that's just
Just like we were like we were talking earlier about like all the fight scenes and stuff like that. So if you notice on social media right now, all you see is black people fighting. They swinging on each other. Black women are fighting on black women, and black men are fighting on. But you never see anything positive about some of the things that's going on in the community. Like when they're feeding somebody, they may share that video one time, but if it's a fight video, it's a million shares.
Circulating.
So it's like, why are you always sharing the negative and not sharing the positive? Because we've been trained to share the negative.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got to get out of that whole stinking thinking as far as that's concerned as well.
Yeah. We fall. I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers, and they was like, well, I don't like to. I feel like every time you get on TV, they're pushing this homosexuality agenda.
Yes, they are.
And I said, I feel like
Sickening.
this. If they're pushing the homosexual agenda, let's call out all the agendas that they're pushing out. Let's call out, like we were talking about, the liquor stores on the corners.
Yes.
Let's talk about how the fast food restaurants. And then what they do is, like you were saying, they put us in the commercials.
Yep.
Oh man.
And that's exactly what
Yeah.
the new car, because we know, so black people spend $1.6 trillion. It was $2.4 trillion a couple of years ago, but because of the pandemic, it's gone down to 1.6 trillion. We spend more money in this country than any other nationality.
Yes.
But every time they talk about black people as a whole, we're broke. So, but they show us in the new cars. They show us buying the clothing. They show us all the stuff. They never show us buying a house. Why don't they ever show a black couple buying a house? They never show that.
But that's
they
not
never
their
show
fault.
a black. But it's. I'm not saying it's the black person's fault. The problem is that because that's what we see, we do what we see. That's human nature.
The narrative. The narrative has already been prescripted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just like in news and stuff like that. You got producers that may have a agenda, that may fit a certain, thought process, and they put it on news versus putting the stuff that needs to be put on news. That's positive stuff.
Exactly. So for example, we talked about the LGBTQ community, right? So here's the thing. I have nothing against the LGBTQ community at all, okay? But when a black man dies, if you don't watch I'm a commercial person, love watching them because they tell the truth, okay? When a black man dies in this country, it doesn't matter where it's at, you'll see a commercial about not harming the LGBTQ. You'll see one about the Jewish people, don't harm the Jewish people. And you'll see one that says, please don't harm the Asian people. Those are the only three things you see. So it's like, oh, they came for the black folks, so please don't come for us. But where is the commercial for a black person, please stop killing us? There's not one. Because we haven't band together to get a commercial made to say stop killing us. But these people, they're smart. They understand that if they keep telling that message, they're going to stop killing the Asian people. If they keep telling that message, the LGBTQT, whatever they are going to be pretty much safe. If they keep saying don't do it to the Jewish people, they're just like us to a certain extent. So they still might have some stuff, but the message is getting out there. Where's our message? We don't have one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's on us. That's we must begin to do.
Yes.
We must begin to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
We must create.
Yeah.
And we must stop looking to others. So I hate the word they. They are doing this. We know what they are doing. Their design is to obliterate us. I think you said earlier, to erase us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so how are we responding? Not reacting. What are we doing for generations moving forward?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. That goes back to the action thing too. Instead of us sitting, oh Lord, I'm not saying again, don't pray.
I get you.
But it comes to a point in time, just like, okay, what happened over in, I think it was Mississippi, where the guy, all the people started jumping in and fighting the white
Montgomery.
Okay. Now, I'm totally against violence, okay? But I think that was one of the most positive things that I could have ever seen happen, because it showed people, not just us, but people,
banding together,
that it comes a time when we're going to start standing up for ourselves.
Yes.
That was an actionable point, and I bet you a white person will think twice before they do something to a black person.
Yeah, and what was so coincidental about that situation was not too long, the same day before that they had a bunch of spiritual sisters, a part of a spiritual community, went down and did a ancestor veneration because that's what they used to bring the slaves in Montgomery. And they came and did something for the ancestors that same day, and then for that happened, it was like,
it was just like, wow.
Yeah, and it was cool. And I saw a couple of people was like, oh, we don't know why y'all are so happy about this situation. Y'all need to heal. But that is a community of people. It wasn't even just about our own personal thing. It was just good to see black people standing up for each other. Some of those people didn't even know each other
at all.
Yeah.
At all.
You know what I'm saying? But we have got to a point where a lot of black people, you got to think of even the history of being in Montgomery, Alabama. When I was in the Marines, my unit was in Montgomery, Alabama. I hated it. I hated it. You could still feel that energy in that city. So for them to stand up the way that they did for each other, that's what we were proud of. It wasn't the fact that they were just hitting on people. It was why they were hitting on people. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because for a long time, we had to deal with it. What about everybody saying, y'all got to heal from that? Cool, but what about the innocent black people, man? What about the pictures that you see of mothers hung on bridges with their babies? How do you expect for people, how do you expect for people to heal from that? You know what I'm saying? If we never had to face it.
It never happened to them, so in their mind, we should have just let that go.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with that, okay? When you have not experienced something yourself, how dare you tell somebody else to let something go?
Yeah.
And you can say, well, you haven't experienced it. You don't know what I've experienced. I'm from Connecticut, where they burn crosses on the lawn when you moved into a white neighborhood. They did that when I was growing up. Okay, so don't tell me what I've experienced. I've had white people spit on me before. I've had people throw stuff at me. I remember when I was a child in Connecticut, where people would take and drive by us, and they would lock the doors as they were going by because they were so afraid of us. Yet they'd be the main ones coming to the neighborhood starting stuff. And then when something happened and they call the police, the black people go to jail and the white people can go home. So don't tell me what I've experienced, because you don't know what I've experienced. Stop saying that.
Yeah.
And to that end, we must begin. We have to not allow people to rewrite our narrative.
Yes.
We have. So when a narrative is being rewritten, if you're with me, you will get gut checked, and I have in this city. Why'd you say that?
Yeah.
Explain. So the other part of it is that we must find the courage in order to stand up to open our mouths.
Yes.
You're not going to rewrite my narrative because you think that you're not going to tell me what I should think.
Right.
Based on what? I challenged a man one time, a very well-to-do man in this community. He said to me one day, I was sitting in the room, he goes, I bet that was done by some entitled Democrat. I said, hold up a sec. I said, why would you say that? He looked, he says, excuse me? I said, I have friends. I have very well-to-do friends who are Democrats. They're not entitled. And so I'm not going to allow you to castigate. First of all, this Negro said castigate. I
was thinking about that. I need to add it to my
That's a good one.
To castigate my friends.
Yeah.
I will not allow you to impugn my friends because you think that they're entitled.
Yeah.
Words matter. Do you know to this day that man says to me, he'll say, hey, Irv, words really do matter.
Yes.
Yes, they
We
do.
must find the courage. Because I think you were saying earlier, the MLKs and the Malcolm X's and the Marcus Garveys, people who were not afraid, and then give me some women's names because I don't want to leave the sisters out.
Harriet Tubman.
Yeah,
Harriet
and then
and even Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks.
She didn't even have to do anything.
Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah.
Barbara Jordan. We must begin. We cannot let that history go, and we should not apologize for the history in Florida when we have a governor that wants to
ruin it,
dismiss our history.
Yeah.
And so instead of fighting and complaining about DeSantis, teach your own children.
Oh man, I've been telling people that.
Teach your own children.
I've been telling you that.
Remember earlier
That
I
should be
spoke
something
to you.
that's
I was like,
Yes.
even if
Yes.
you try to take any African American history or history out the books, period, social media.
Yes.
It's there forever in that cloud.
But
The
see,
information is there.
That is very true. Here's the issue, right? So they're starting with the schools. Where are they going to stop is the question. That's the question.
Let me say, one thing that they pointed out, I want to point out real quick. They started with the schools, and my friend of mine told me, she said, you notice how the Black Panther movie came out. So when kids go Google the Black Panther, they're going to see a cartoon character. They're not going to know who the real Black Panthers were.
Yeah.
They've already started it.
Yeah.
They already started it.
But that's on us, though.
That's on us.
That's
Yeah.
on us.
But-
Yeah.
So if you come to my house right now, James Baldwin is by my recliner. So I had put Black authors in my home for our children.
Yeah.
And so part of the reason that we're having the difficulty, we can sit, to your point, Catrice, we can sit and complain and bitch all we want. What are you doing for your own children? Don't make that about them and they. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to vote you out, but at the same time, what can we be doing to make sure that we don't lose this history?
Yeah.
So I was talking to somebody about that, and the
Right.
first thing they said is, number one, we need to start going to the council meetings
Yes.
because it starts in the city.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not. So the state, yes, we understand, but it starts in our cities. It starts in our counties. Okay. And one of the things that Black people do not do, they do not go to any of the council meetings. They don't go to the city meetings. They don't go to the
Why?
Because they're afraid.
Okay.
And that's what it boils
Okay.
down to. It goes back to fear, and it goes back to thinking that if they come, if the police show up, if this happens, it's time for us to stop being afraid and showing up in droves.
Right.
Because if we show up and say that I have a problem with this, and there needs to be a change in this situation, then that will start making people realize that we care about what's happening to us.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're not there lets them know that we don't give a damn, and that's the problem.
And I think a lot of times too, And that's how we do miss out on the stuff that's being put out, because we don't show up to those meetings. And
school board, that's another one we need to be at.
Yeah.
The school board.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this. So they're upset with the whole books. You know, when I say they, I'm talking about the white people, because I ain't afraid of them. Okay.
Yeah.
When they're all upset because they don't want their kids to feel bad. Why are not any black kids, black parents going up to the school saying, I don't want my child feeling bad that there was a slave and that the white people did this? Why can't you tell them about the history that actually happened? There should have been a combat between that. My child now feels like she's being a disservice because you won't teach her history. I'm sorry, but the Daughters of Republic and also the Daughters of Confederate wrote the historical books that's going on throughout the entire United States. That is one single group that has written all these books of history. Why are they the only ones allowed to write the books? They're writing the history of a Confederacy that lost. They lost the war.
They lost it.
But they glorify it. Why is that so beautiful? Why are we allowing that to happen?
Because of the meaning behind it. It helps feed them. And then, like,
but what about feeding us?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, that's why we have to come. One thing, City Councilwoman Tenny Ade, when she was on my show, she said that she was always taught, you eat before you leave the house.
Okay.
So if we come, I was mad when I went through what I went through while I was in the Marines. It opened my eyes to, this is a real deal, the real thing. My great grandmother was from Birmingham, Alabama. She used to come back and she used to tell us a lot of the stories, and we knew that I remember I went to the beach on a date one night. She's like, don't you go down to that beach, the Klan be down. I'm like, Grandma. Like, this ain't that time. Yeah, because she saw the story. She saw it on her own street, but my grandma never taught us hate. She never taught us hate. Yes. And so it kind of confuses me. I was mad because I was feeling like you people don't even know us, and this is how y'all feeling about us. But my grandma, she saw it and she had to live it, and she still ain't teach us that. So I was mad for a very, very, very long time. And then I just started to realize that y'all don't know us. That's why I can't be mad at you for being ignorant. Yeah. Okay. So now, instead of being mad at them, all right, we can't go to this store. Cool. Let's create our own.
Yes.
Black Wall Street.
And that's how it should be.
And that's how it should be.
You help it. We don't have the funds. A lot of times when we say let's create our own, again, it goes back to what's going on. Redlining takes place.
Yeah.
You have banks that won't give a loan. You have real estate agents that are commercial that won't sell to a black person, give that property to them because they feel like if that black business is in that neighborhood, they could mess and bring the whole neighborhood down. So you gotta. It's a lot of little things that's going on with that. So again, if an Asian person can come in a black neighborhood and set up a restaurant, but a black person can't do it in their own neighborhood, that speaks volumes. Yeah. Because we're not allowed to have the money. So that's why with Bantu Cola, what we do is really important. Like I said, last year, we gave over $27,000 away. Well, I'm going to say that's what needs to happen. We need to have 1,000 people come down and be a part of, like today, we had Tracy's event. It should have been droves of people down here supporting him. Yeah. He should have been able to have at least 25 people show up at his event and be able to say, we're so proud of you. Instead, we've been trained again as black people to hate on each other. We can't, just because one person has a vision, we start taking away from it. Well, it ain't all that. I remember when, stop that shit. Yeah. We are hurting each other. It's time for us to get past that crap and understand that we are all about trying to build up the community. How can you build up a community when all you think about is how you can tear them down?
And if we got what trillion?
$1.6 trillion.
If we were spending $1.6 trillion, we don't need their money.
So I'm trying to tell you.
We're giving our money to Nike, white company.
And I was just talking about this. We were talking about the Tulsa situation, and I was like, well, some people might not like this, but it wasn't just what happens to them. Why the city did not build back up? I said, let's be real. Integration was taking place during that time, so now I can go to Sears. I don't have to spend money in my own community, and that was a big problem for a lot of black communities because now you feeling privileged and I could go to this store and get XYZ when you already had it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but sometimes we want to be so much like other people. I remember growing up, I would hear all my friends say, well, I want a mixed baby.
Why?
Oh, because my baby gonna have good hair. Then when you see somebody with good hair and they say, oh, well, my grandma Indian. And then you have nerve to say, you ain't no Indian. What a lot of us are. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us are Native Americans. So the thing is, you can still be black and have good hair. It blew me because I have a family member that's like that. They wanted all their children to be biracial. I just never understood.
And that goes back to mentality too.
Yeah.
That whole mentality of not thinking that you're enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Mentality, self-hatred. But back to the store, the integration and the Sears. I think is what you were saying. So the whole point is, we got to understand that there are social engineers.
Yes.
The social engineers recognize, they have money to spend.
Yep.
So we're going to redirect these funds.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the movements. I mean, I always tell people all the time who make comments about the LGBTQ, LMNP community, that's not a black movement.
No, it's not.
And it'd be so funny when I hear black people say they're a part of. No, you're not.
No, they're not.
You're not.
They're not.
But what they do is they did the same thing with the women's suffrage movement. What they did was there was a white women's movement,
Yes, it
and they
was.
said, "Oh, well, if we
have
get
the white
them,
people
that's
in,
more
we can
numbers."
we can get this done.
It wasn't because they liked or cared about what you had going on.
Absolutely. They didn't even think we were 100% human.
Right. So you have a lot of that's still going on today. You know, people feeling privileged. You'll see people on social media all the time. Oh, you got on fake this, you got on fake that. And you're like, what does it matter to you? You know what I'm saying? Just you a fool for spending $1,700 on a belt, but you don't own nothing.
Man.
You have a brand new car with no garage to put it in. Explain that to me.
Garage,
Yard.
You don't have a house, but you bought a brand new car.
And
Pay cash for it too.
And I tell people all the time too, I know for a lot of people, buying a house is a big thing for them. But I think people should pay more attention to buying land.
That's another thing too. Absolutely. Yeah. Investments are also something that you need to look at for real.
Yeah.
Like people don't they think that you have to have a whole lot of money to invest. You do not. You do not.
Yeah.
But you have this whole idea of what you think you're supposed to have, because again, we've been brainwashed to believe that foolishness.
So I would take this moment to say, because I don't know, I just met you, and so I don't know where all your show is seen, but I would say to your audience, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this show, you should find a financial advisor.
Absolutely.
You should find an advisor. You should find an insurance agent.
Yes.
You should find, so that we don't do GoFundMes and fish fries and car washes, because life is happening quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
With all of the shooters, the massive shooting, the road rage, things are happening. Yeah. And so I would encourage you, wherever you are in this country, wherever you're listening to this podcast, that you find a financial advisor, that you find an insurance agent, that you find an attorney.
Find a black bank.
Find a black bank.
And a real estate agent.
Find a real estate agent. Begin to educate yourself. This what we're talking about is a process.
Yes.
This doesn't happen overnight. This is generations of stuff, generations of oppression, generations of ignorance, generations of fear.
Yeah.
We simply begin to undo it, to begin to reverse it.
Yes.
And another thing also, this is something that people don't realize. So on Bantu Cola, I have a post where it talks about how people dress, okay? And we need to talk about this, because the way we dress really does affect how people perceive us.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not necessarily that you can't do it, but the question is the perception of who you are as a person plays a big part in what you gain sometimes.
Yeah.
So even though you can do it, the question is, should you?
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, like how we present ourselves, how we handle ourselves in public, all that stuff plays a real big part. And it's not just with the white community, it's with the black community as well. Because when we see each other and we're not looking a certain way, or we judge each other harder than anybody else does.
I agree.
Okay.
And women are the worst.
Yeah.
Pop you. You about to get crazy.
It's a rough man. It's a rough
What I'm talking about not doing, you got to get it done. Okay?
I mean, even like with the guys, we right now we dress casual.
Yeah.
Coming up, you'll be considered a cornball.
Yeah.
By having your pants up,
right,
and you dress as a jacket,
right,
you'll be considered a cornball. And I just feel like that still is going on.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? You go to quote unquote the club or wherever, and you'll see somebody with their pants hanging down and dressing a certain way, like rappers or whoever is in the industry, whatever. And then you'll see somebody that's got business about themselves. Oh, he's boring.
Yeah. Oh,
they can't even get a date.
And a lot of times I'm gonna have to kind of go on what you said. A lot of the times it's because the women encourage it.
That's what?
Ooh.
I raised my hand.
Be real. Women are bigger influencers than they realize.
Enablers.
If you tell a man, I want this, it was a woman. She had to be about 40 something. I seen her one downtown, and she was like, I don't mess with the killers and the drug dealers. If you pushing that all the time, that's what men are going to form this up. I know I can get a woman. That's how I'm going to look. That's what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have people who aren't mature enough to think for themselves. So that's what they go by. I think for a lot of men, we of course, I don't want to play a blame game, but at the same time, I do feel like that is one part
we
that plays.
We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you. So I have friends that say the same thing, and those same friends get their behind toe up by the black man that says he's killing a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem: you keep putting that stuff out there, and they keep thinking that's what you want.
Yep.
And then you have a woman like me that if you put your hands on me, I promise you it's going to be a problem.
Right.
But I don't look for that criteria
Right.
at all.
Right.
And so a guy won't even look at me twice because he already knows that I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
So it makes it harder for some women that are not like us to do that stuff.
I agree.
Be with the man because you have this foolishness that's going on. But again, it goes back to what's been shown in society.
Yep.
Right.
You have the rappers that talk that stuff, and you listen to that stuff and you're banging your head and you and kill that nigga. No, you can't do that and expect it not to get in your spirit, and then that's what comes out your mouth.
Yep. Yep.
So then that means we need to start charging the rappers and telling them to stop putting that. I don't care how much money it makes for them. If we stop buying it, they'll stop selling it.
Yeah. Well, it's all a business, and they are funded and they are told to if you make this type of music, we're gonna give you this amount of money.
Yep.
So of course, that's why you see it. We have all. Through the years, I say the last 100 or so years, we have different phases. So, in the early 1900s, how they got us was through lynchings.
Yep.
Okay, you get through the 40s, 50s, 60s, and because anytime we get a black messiah, they're gonna take you down. Okay, they try to take you down. So you get the 40s, 50s, 60s, the civil, you get this whole civil rights era, and what they do is they shoot you and they kill you. Yep. And during that time, black people, they're revolting. You know what I'm saying? Early 1900s, before lynchings, black people are owning business, doing their thing. Okay, then now 40s through 60s, people are doing the same thing. They're revolting. Hey, we want equal XYZ. All right, they find a way to kill you then. Then you got in the 70s, 80s, 90s, everybody wearing their afros, everybody's trying to go to HBCUs, they pushing it again. So what they do is they put drugs in our neighborhood. So then now we're in the era of the 2000s, and what they do is they come through the music.
Yep. Not just that, gentrification is
gentrification. Yeah.
So if they can break us up in any kind of way, and I know you hate the word they, but it's real.
Right.
Gentrification is one of the biggest ways that you can separate a black family. Okay. Right now in Pensacola, if you go and look at what's going on in Pensacola right now, it's scary. All the alphabet streets are gone. They were all. My grandfather was raised here. They were all owned by black people. Most of the people that were black down there now do not have a place. They're all moving out to the country area. Yeah. Now, they're not just doing that. Montclair, which was a black neighborhood, white folks are buying up all of Montclair.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, they're coming in and they are buying it and they're flipping it, and white folks are moving back into Montclair. Yeah. Now, not only that, but over here off of Fairfield, where they have, that's all black neighborhood. My grandfather lived right over here, right up of Fairfield. He lived Fairfax Drive. They're buying that up and flipping it, and white folks
the Mayfair area. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's funny you said I grew up. My grandparents, when they moved from Alabama, they bought a house in a 10-yard. My great grandmother's house, she has 2 houses on her land. But then when you look next door now, I remember one of her friends' houses used to be there. Now they're building a 2-story house. You know how they build the Creole cottages. And when I walk down the street, man, it makes you kind of sad because I remember being in school and a white teacher told me, she said, you know, that area in the 10-yard, that's worth a lot of money. It's going to be worth a lot of money one day. And we growing up in the 10-yard, all I saw was black.
Yep.
Like, all we saw, we went to church in the 10-yard. Like, everything was black. Everybody knew each other because either y'all was cousins or everybody just knew, we knew who he was.
We were all neighbors.
Yeah. And it was like that for a long time. I mean, even when the church I grew up in, on 8th Street in the 10-yard, it was, all that land was owned by the guy that started our church, and to see it now, when you look on the side of our church, it was just all this land. Now you have 6 cottages sitting on the side of the church, so they do that. It's 2 things that's happening with gentrification. It's not only just separation, but if they push us all in one area together, they're going to say, oh, they're going to kill each other off. So they push us in these areas, and due to the fact we need to start policing our own neighborhoods.
Yes.
We get a lot of times now, if you get somebody black who work on the force, they say, oh, you a snitch. No, we need you. We need more of y'all on it. We need more people to understand us. I had a friend, and even when it comes to the schools, I had a friend who left, which now, I don't know if y'all seen how, I think they said like 30 teachers have quit since the school year started.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I had a friend who worked for the school board. He left. He said, man, he left and moved to Dallas. He said, I can't do it. He said, the way that they treat those kids, he said, a white kid will come with behavior issues and they say, oh, okay. He said, as soon as a black kid come with the same thing, they try to kick him out of school. They don't even suspend you nothing. We just don't want you here no more. And when you stand up for them, well, they'll be like XYZ. They'll try to find an excuse. Or then they'll try to look at you, or why you taking up for them, And we don't have a lot of people that's willing to openly be courageous to say, you know what, y'all dead ass wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now we wonder why a lot of times when you get to school and you see how our interactions, we all had that one teacher who we looked at as a mother figure because we knew they don't understand us, but you do. Right. And it don't matter how bad she talked to us, we still loved her because we knew, she reminded me of our mama and she telling us the truth. Right. Yeah. But we need more of that in there. We need more people standing up. And I know that they have, from my understanding, last year sometime they had a meeting. Because there were people trying to see what could they do to engage with black children. Invited all the teachers in Escambia County. Only 20 white teachers showed up.
Because they don't care.
It's not their problem.
It's not their problem.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to what you said. We got to teach our own.
Got to do our own.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, so we're all over the place a little bit, but I want to talk about one more thing before I leave, and that is Black-owned businesses.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we begin to develop our own. A Black-owned business does not necessarily mean that it's a Black business. It's just a Black-owned. But what I want to say to my fellow Black-owned entrepreneurs, my entrepreneurs, is that when I come to your business and I'm supporting you, when I have a problem, be open to the feedback.
Yes.
Just because it's Black-owned doesn't mean that it's perfect. Mm-hmm. And what I want to say to the Black consumer, when we have a problem in a Black-owned business, don't write the business off. Because you have a problem at Walmart, but you go back to Walmart.
Every time.
You have a bad meal at Ruth Chris or a bad at Lone Star or Longhorn, Texas Roadhouse. You go back.
Sure do.
And so we gotta have some grace.
Yeah.
And so, but business owner, I didn't receive a good service. That product I was disappointed in the product. Be open to the feedback, and also consumer, don't be a jerk when you go into because it's Black owned.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I hate to see it. You see it a lot of times on social media.
Right.
And I've said the same thing. You go to McDonald's have your food cold, and you'll go back to McDonald's the next week.
The next day.
Yeah, the next day. Yeah.
Hoping that you got somebody else that fixed it right.
Yeah. I ain't going to that one no more. I'm just going to one on Fairfield.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
But when somebody who looks like you, and you should know how hard it is to even get to a point where they are at, and you'll get on social media, don't y'all shop with XYZ? You don't even have to do all that. Like we don't have to do all of that because you ain't gonna do it to McDonald's. You're not doing it to Walmart. You don't have to do all that. And we are our biggest enemies.
We certainly are. Yes. And I'm gonna say this. So I'm in the process of looking for a house right now, and I had 2 different agents that I was working with. And after everything hit the fan, I told them, I was like, you guys gave me horrible service. You made me feel like I wasn't even worthy of you. And they didn't want to hear it. You've already said we don't need that kind of negativity. No, you do need that kind of negativity. But that didn't stop me from going to another black real estate agent.
Right.
I'm telling you that you need to work on something. But that doesn't stop me from using somebody else. The problem is that these same 2 people, you can't work with black folks like that, girl, because sometimes black folks just mess up everything, and they don't. And I get more service out of white people. Of course you do. They understand the situation. Yeah. They understand that you won't work with anybody else as your own because you have that mentality. They see it on you. Mm-hmm. Stop doing that. Yeah. Just because somebody else mess up doesn't mean that everybody's going to mess up the same way.
Right. Mm-hmm. Look at the numbers too. I mean. What's the percentage of African Americans in?
We only have literally 3% black businesses in the city of Pensacola.
3%.
Wow. 3%. Okay, that's Pensacola. In the country, we represent 9% in the entire country. But guess what? Out of that 9% that we represent, we actually employ more people in this country than most other businesses.
Oh wow.
So don't tell me that we can't make something work.
Right.
Okay. The problem is that we shoot ourselves in the foot thinking that if we do what we're doing as far as downing each other, that we're destroying it. No, you're destroying the country as a whole, the black community as a whole. It is time for us to stop thinking like that, because if you destroy the black community, the black businesses are the reason why some of this stuff happened. I have 9 black businesses right now that I'm friends with that give back to the community on a consistent basis. They give to the churches, they have food drives, they do all this stuff, but you don't want to work with a black business. What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah. I feel that. I do want to, before we get out of here, I do want to touch in on your business and the importance of insurance. Like we were talking about earlier, we got to get out of that whole GoFundMe era. Okay. So I want to let them know about your the insurance.
So as I've gotten into this industry, I've really looked into why life insurance is so popular to the majority, and it's simple. It's generational wealth.
Yes.
What they're doing is they're putting this life insurance under Tim siblings, and then guess what they're doing? They're adding a trust.
Yeah.
And when Tim dies, that life insurance policy goes to the trust. And guess what? Everybody else gets a piece of it and keeping that generational wealth going.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, that's powerful. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of it is tax free. Mm-hmm. Well, most of all of it is tax free.
Right.
So, for us, it's just time to educate.
Yeah.
It ain't all about, selling. Let's get past the whole sales tactic or way of selling. Just educate people and let them be informed, and then boom, let them make a conscious and educated decision based off the information you gave them. Yeah. And I always tell clients, fact check me.
Yeah.
You can fact check me. Mm-hmm. And I also encourage clients, my company, hey, I'm gonna give you the number and I'm gonna give you the carrier information. Fact check me.
Yeah.
Don't just go off of what people are telling you, because people are coming into our communities and they're telling you, hey, this is the way it should, this is what you got. You got a permanent life insurance policy, but no, it's not. It's a term, but it's permanent for 10 years. You know what I mean? So, we talked about it earlier. Yeah. Really, you can't really get into the mindset of thinking that your people are gonna always do you wrong.
Yeah,
there's some people out there that's really trying to educate and do the right thing.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to do as a life insurance agent, is trying to give back in that educational realm so that you know about it, so that we can stop these generational curses.
Yeah. And I know one thing I hear when people are trying to choose or make a decision when it comes to insurance is the debate between life And whole life insurance.
Yeah, whole life and term.
And term. What is the difference between the two?
Well, whole life, you have permanent premiums that will never go up or down unless you so choose to increase your coverage. And then you have cash value that's built on the inside of it. Basically, you become your own bank, interest-free bank. But the only thing with that is you borrow all of it, you just bought out your policy. Term is just like, it's temporary. That's what we call it. It's over a certain time frame. If you agree 5-year term, that's what you're going to get. Okay. And a lot of people get term because it may mirror their mortgage. They may be young and they want to make sure, hey, I'm the breadwinner. My wife got 2 kids. Hey, I want to make sure, for 15 years of this mortgage, if that happens, I pass away, boom, we have our house that is going to be a part of that legacy, and my children are, they have a home, to be over their heads or whatever. Yeah.
And at the end of the term, it's important to note that it ends and there's nothing you get back. It's important to know.
Yes.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. Yes.
So it's a 10, 15, 20, 30. So you can have it for that long. If you don't use it before the term ends, at the end of the term, it just goes away.
Right. Whole life is totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah. I mean, if, say, for instance, you move to whoever else, carrier, they have to give you your money back. Right. Yeah. Money you put in there, they go give it back to you. So,
I think that was something good to point out because I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, it was a good point. It is because you're not getting anything out of the term like you would for the whole life. So,
but the difference is that, and so this is his hour, his show. I know all about it because I'm in the give your phone number. Give your phone number. Yeah, because I want to support. Because this is what collaboration looks like.
Yes.
So I'm in the industry too, but this is his hour, his day. So give your phone number so they will call you.
Yes.
There's enough business for everybody.
Yeah, of course.
Oh goodness, I have a friend that works at such and such agency, like that, and there are literally about 20 in the area. That's how much, and that's a mainstream, name brand that we see on TV all the time, and it's not even considering the smaller ones that are quote unquote mom and pop, agencies. So there's plenty. You better believe that. But my number is 850-449-2070. Again, 850-449-2070, and just reach out to me.
Most definitely, and like I said before too, if you didn't catch it, you would definitely see his information on our pages.
I'd like to just say one other thing also. If you are a Black business owner and you watch this show, please go to bantucola.com and register your business. Yes. We have roughly about 700 businesses in our database. The goal is to get all 3,300, which is in the city of Pensacola, so that we're able to get the information out there and actually do business with the city, because they want to know all the Black businesses. But if we don't know who they are, we can't tell them. So we want to be able to tell them who they are, and then let us be the go-between for them coming to us to get those names.
And can you tell us a little bit about Bantu Cola?
So Bantu Cola started by Chris Hendricks, who had a real goal to see Black people come together as one nation, but with several tribes. We are all different. We have many, many, many different personalities, backgrounds, what have you. However, we have one common thing. When we're seen in public, we're all seen as Black. And so what we started working on is dealing with the political situations that are happening in the Black community, dealing with community issues that need to be discussed, dealing with economic development, dealing with spiritual growth, and dealing with a few other areas. But the main thing is that being able to allow us to see that we're one group of people. It doesn't matter how many tribes you have within that nation. We're still one group of people. And so we focus on doing news about different things going on. If you go to our social media pages and even our website, you'll see that we have a lot of different videos out there talking about what's happening in the community, politically, community-wise. We also focus on helping Black businesses, right? Like right now, there's several Black businesses that are struggling. So we take and we find one particular business and we actually help lift them up and get their information out there. Like I said, last year we gave about $27,000 away simply to to help small businesses. So our goal is to get funding in so that we can really push it back out and help the black businesses within our community. And then also make it so that, because like the storefront is going away now, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
So we're trying to get us back into the idea of realizing that shopping local, shopping black is really important. And it's not just around the holidays, because whenever you have the holidays come, oh, shop black. No, you should shop black every single day.
Right.
Every day you should spend at least $10 in a store. We go out every single day and we shop and we buy food, restaurants. We go to grocery stores. We do all this stuff. We had a black grocery store and it's gone because no one was supported like they were supposed to. Yeah. We had a black beauty supply store and we supported it, and they're gone because they didn't get the support that they needed. But yet we're always talking about, we need to have this. We had it. The problem is that we don't support it, and it's time for us to support our own. And that's what we focus on it with Bantu Cola. Yeah.
And Bantu Cola, the website is B as in Bravo, ANTOUCOLA, bantucola.com.
And if you're interested in getting a package, this gentleman over here can help you. Bird and bird.
Yeah, I really enjoyed you guys. I really enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, this is the first time I was on the G Spot podcast. Hopefully not the last. Yeah. We'll definitely be doing work together. And thank you for putting me on with registering my company, because I didn't even think of that, man. Like I said, when you kind of new to this, and you're doing it by yourself, it's kind of just like, and you kind of like get a little discouraged sometimes with asking the people that you feel like you could ask. Especially, I'm being real, especially locally. But I'm pretty sure that ain't something that just we go through. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure every city probably can say the same thing. Sometimes you have to go outside, to get what you need. But I'm thankful for all of y'all being here today, for real. I got your card too. Once again, man, make sure y'all always check out the G Spot podcast. If you want more information on any of the business that you heard talked about tonight, you can come to the G Spot podcast and RWR Live 365 page, and make sure y'all check me out. Like I said, once again, we on here every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central Time. If you haven't already, download the RWR Live 365 app. You can listen to my show and plenty of other shows and good music all day long, man. Y'all be blessed, and y'all have a good evening.